Welcome back to the Digital Builder Podcast. We recently filmed live from the Autodesk Technology Center in Boston during the world premiere of Make It Heal, our new film series exploring how design and construction can be powerful tools for community recovery. This conversation brings together two incredibly thoughtful voices, New England Patriots quarterback and aerospace engineer Joshua Dobbs, alongside Gerard Georges, the Director of Architecture at Build Health International. Before we dive in, I want to set the stage with a bit of context about Autodesk's larger Design and Make It Real education initiative. Design and Make It Real is Autodesk's student program that equips the next generation with digital skills, hands-on experience, and purpose-driven projects that prepare them for real careers in architecture, engineering, and construction. The idea is simple but powerful. Give students access to the same design and make tools and workflows used across the industry today and create authentic opportunities for them to solve real problems. One of the biggest components of Design and Make It Real this year is Make It Heal, a design challenge focused on community recovery. Students across the US and Canada are invited to design structures that help communities heal after wildfires, floods, storms, or other climate-driven events. This year, we're awarding over $100,000 in scholarships, prizes, and additional funding. A big part of this investment includes $25,000 dedicated to the building trades through a new partnership with the ACE Mentor program. Together with ACE, Autodesk will launch the Summer Trades Institute and Externship Initiative this year, which will provide $500 scholarships for 50 high school students to participate in construction camps and externships, blending real-world building skills with digital literacy. So Make It Heal really is a bridge, connecting education to industry and inspiration to action. With that, you've heard enough from me today, so let's jump into the episode. Very special episode of Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. We've got Joshua Dobbs, New England Patriots quarterback and aerospace engineer. We also have Gerard Georges, the Director of Architecture at Build Health International, an organization known for building life-saving facilities in some of the most resource-constrained regions in the world. Before we dive in, gentlemen, how are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good. Feeling great after seeing that video.
Feeling good too. The video was awesome to be here for the world premiere. It's good to be up in Boston. I know we all had to fight some traffic to get up here, so it's good to be here and be able to talk about our stories and our past and our correlation with Autodesk today.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun here. And so, Gerard, I'm going to throw the first question to you today for our panel. How do you ensure that the projects that you're working on and all the incredible work that you do truly serve the communities that they're built for?
We really strive ourselves on the idea of collaboration, communication, and shared outcomes. So as long as we all come to the table with that mindset, we really have a great roadmap to move forward with our projects. So how do we do that? We have user or stakeholder engagement sessions where we really try to understand what are their priorities, what are the needs, what are the goals, and then how can we influence the notions of sustainability and resiliency in each project that we work in.
And it's such a critical aspect of building in different communities, especially than the one that you're from, because their expectations, their needs, all of the work and the use of those facilities might differ from where we're sitting today. And so I think the intention behind all of those choices that you mentioned becomes increasingly important as we move forward. So I appreciate you setting that baseline. Josh, any thoughts on that one? I know, when you're on the football field, you're not out building a hospital by any means, but with your aerospace engineering background, I'd be interested to hear your thoughts too.
Yeah, I think people just coming together is extremely important. What really stood out was the VR session, where you're able to have a building that's going up. You're able to walk through the process of what it looks like to build something. It's very similar to us on the field where, we go through various walkthroughs before the games. You're able that when you're in that moment, you're able to see things come to life the right way.
Yeah, I love that. And I've just started dipping my toe deeper into the virtual reality aspect of construction too. Just really showcases how interesting and tech forward the construction industry can be. And I think that goes against kind of some of the common perceptions folks have of, people are just out digging holes and pounding nails. And I think, spending time out on the project site, it couldn't be further from the truth, which is incredibly exciting. But I want to click into your role. Specifically, what excites you most about this year's theme, which we all know is Make It Heal?
The biggest thing I think is just seeing the youth involvement within the community. I know the LA wildfires were a tragedy that we all saw from afar and obviously touched more people more personally with their homes and their communities being lost. But I think it's important seeing the members of that community, starting with the youth, to be able to reinvest in the community and see it come back to life. As we all know, the youth is the future, the next generation, and to see those students that, like the students that are here today, be able to have a unique challenge, but also for them to see how they can apply their skills, their resources into recreating the community that was lost from them, I think is what really makes this challenge and this opportunity special. We saw it come to life a little bit in the video, but I know as time goes, we'll really see the applications of it.
And I think this moment, it's incredibly important. I mean, where I live in Oregon, about 5 years ago, we had a tragic fire, and a lot of homes and a large portion of the community was lost as well. And I feel like we're still recovering from that in the Southern Oregon area, and it takes a long time. And I'm incredibly grateful for the role Autodesk plays in this conversation, but everybody here in the room who's participating and all the people who just show up and have very good intentions and are trying to help. It's a trying moment when you're dealing with such loss, whether it's tied to wildfires or other natural disasters. And I think there's just so much work left to do, but I am very encouraged by hearing voices like yours and Gerard's to kind of come in and help guide people along the way. Gerard, I know you just saw the video for the first time today, so your reaction is going to be fresh, but I just love your thoughts about that Make It Heal theme as well.
Yeah, I'd like to pivot back a little bit to what Josh mentioned regarding the ability to leverage the tools for the students to make their voices heard. And I think two important factors are visualization and communication. And I think the Autodesk sets of technology tools allow young people to visualize or share their visual ideas and then to be able to communicate them to minimize any issues or concerns as they go through the process. For me, it's really about we all want an environment, a community that we feel comfortable and proud of. And Make It Heal to me is about how do you make that space happen so that you can regenerate the community through the ages.
I think you nailed it. Like, it's a challenging moment right now, but there is a lot to be encouraged by as we come together to, figure out what's next in this bigger phase of, rebuilding and re-healing the environment. Mm-hmm. I'd love it if you could click into the concept of human-centered design specifically. What is it? What does it look like in practice, and how does this support this approach to healing in our communities that we're talking about today?
Yeah, for me, human-centered design is really around how do you make an environment, a culture, a community that inspires and supports and regenerates basic human person. We all want to communicate with each other. We all engage with each other. So thinking about design of spaces that supports that engagement, that inspires, that heals and refurbishes, things like biophilic design, bringing natural landscape into the environment for multiple benefits, creating views, creating resiliency around climate conditions that we all have to deal with. And then thinking about what the end user will want, and then what the users beyond them will need when we think about building or construction or design.
I love that you put the people first that are using those buildings as well, because I think it's easy to get caught up in the design process where you're just excited about owner requirements or local building codes. But at the end of the day, we are building facilities that people use every day. And not everybody thinks about the construction industry in the way that you or I might, or another engineer or architect. But I think it's just incredibly important that folks keep the humanity in these conversations in an incredibly intentional way. Josh, any thoughts on that one as well?
As both of you guys have stated, like, it's crucial to the end user, right? How they're going to use their resources around them. But I also think in the designers, I think it's cool just seeing the different backgrounds of the designers and their thought process, their problem solving skills, their creativity, seeing how it comes to life. And I think that's what's been so unique about learning about the Autodesk software, how they're able to make things come to life quickly, is that you're able to see multiple iterations of the solution to a problem. You're able to see how it fits in different places, in different environments, works for different people. And I think being able to have multiple choices and then able to go through the data and decipher what is the best solution for the problem is really cool. But I think also with the students, it's great to see their creativity come to life and ultimately to improve the life of the end user.
You touch on two wonderful points there. One, I think, is the teamwork aspect of construction, because all these different viewpoints really broaden the scope of what we get to see and what we can do. And I think that's incredibly valuable. But also, I think just leaning into construction, architecture, engineering, and construction careers are incredibly lucrative. So I'm plugging that for all the students that are sitting to my left. If you're not looking deeply at the AEC industry, you most certainly should. But Josh, you've worked at NASA as an intern. You've, of course, been a member of many NFL teams and a whole lot more. Very incredible career. What lessons about teamwork specifically and adaptability translate best to the construction and design industries?
I think the biggest thing, one, is that everyone has their unique background that's got them to wherever they are. And in a team, for instance, like in our complex in Foxborough, everyone comes from different places, right? I come from Atlanta. Drake comes from North Carolina. Stephon Diggs comes from Maryland, and so on and so forth. But it's all of the work that we put in, is all of the past experiences that we've gone through that allow us to ultimately come together and be able to apply the past knowledge, learn new knowledge, and come together to win on Sunday. And I think it's that unique diversity that really strengthens the team. And also, I think for the students in the crowd, is when you're joining a new team, it's just like being confident in your own skills and abilities. A lot of times you have different people of different pedigrees, people that have been there for a year, 2 years, and it's the same in the construction industry. You have a hierarchy system of people that have worked for 20 years within the industry and people that have worked for 2 years in the industry. And no matter how long you've been on your job or your task, I think you still have something to bring to the table based on your past and your mindset and your discipline and your creativity at the end of the day. As Cheryl said, teamwork and communication are key, right? Like we see it every week on Sundays and quick game day atmospheres, but in every single industry, you see it. During my time at NASA, you saw it. They're working on the Artemis II rocket to go to the moon. But you see the teamwork come together. It's people working across the country at various different NASA sites, building boosters, building capsules, building modular systems that all get shipped down to Kennedy Space Center that get built. And ultimately, the end goal is for a rocket to blast off. But it's the years of hard work and teamwork and people coming together, communicating, working together, respecting each other's background, respecting each other's thoughts and creativity that ultimately allow for the best version of the product to be achieved at the end of the day.
Everything you're saying right now makes it clear that your nickname, the Pastronaut, is incredibly fitting. But I want to hear a little bit more about leading under pressure. I can't think of an environment that could be more intense. You're on the field, you're the quarterback. As you mentioned a moment ago, the pressure, the pace is incredible. Like, tell me about that. Like, how do you navigate when the stakes are high, whether you're behind or not? Like, there's some intensity there, and I think folks would be interested in learning about it.
I think the Attorney General stated it best, pressure is a privilege. It's funny, like a lot of athletes use that similar term because the situations that we get into in a game day atmosphere are the same situations that we've always have dreamed of being in and that you've worked toward. And so, at the end of the day, it comes down to your preparation, I think. For us, the season starts in April, where we go through our off-season activities, where you're going through the basics, you're going through your fundamentals, you're going through your footwork, you're learning your teammates' names, but you're also getting the flow of what the plays are, what the offensive system is. Then it grows into mini camp and camp, where you're going through more situational football. Then you go through preseason. Then you go through the beginning of the season, where you're put in different situations and you have a chance to go out and perform and succeed, but you also have a chance to perform and fail and learn from those mistakes to ultimately culminate to where we are now, where we're making our playoff push. Obviously, we had the Bills last weekend, but we're making our playoff push. There's a lot of pressure on the line, but there's weeks and months of preparation that built us up to this moment. Yeah. And I think in every single industry is the exact same. It's the habits that you've created studying. It's the habits you created working with other people. Mm-hmm. It's the problem-solving skills that you learn when you have to answer a hard question on an exam or test. It's those reps that you build up over time that when you're in the moments where you have to make an important decision or you're back against the wall against a big timeline, or for us, you have 2-minute drill to win the game. It's all those reps that you've accumulated over time that prepare you for the moment. And so at the end of the day, because of that preparation, if you do it the right way, you don't really feel the pressure. You're just excited to perform and achieve your goal at the end of the day. And I think that's the beauty in the process. It's those moments of preparing and failing and falling on your face, those moments of succeeding and achieving a goal that ultimately prepare you for anything that any industry can throw at you.
I love your answer here, and it resonates very deeply for me. I mean, to look behind the curtain, we spent a lot of time preparing for this conversation today to make sure that we're comfortable. And to your point, we roll up and it looks easy and we're having a great time because of that preparation. If I was winging it today and we didn't prepare questions and think about the conversation we wanted to have, this would be a whole lot more awkward for everybody in the room right now. So thankfully, we've sidestepped that a bunch. Yeah. But Gerard, I want to dig into your background as well,
Sure.
because you've managed projects in crisis zones, in high-stake healthcare environments. How do you maintain your composure and guide your team when everything feels urgent? And I'm sure, especially when there's a crisis situation unfolding, you're preparing for one, everything might feel urgent at the same time. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it goes to what Josh says in terms of preparation, personal preparation as well as group preparation. Part of it is being able to work the process. If you've developed a process, you work through the process and trust the process. And then always think, what's the end goal? What's best for the users of the space that we're working for? What's the best for the person who's going to build the building? And then look at options. Many times we, as designers or architects, engineers, planners, whatever industry, we have a goal, what the end product should be like. But there are all these forces that impact what that end product ends up being. And
Absolutely.
I think we have to be flexible, malleable enough to say, okay, can we get to this goal, but maybe we're taking a different path. Maybe we're introducing a different system or a different partner to end up getting to this process. So dealing with stress is really thinking about what are the risks that we may face, then how do we address those risks, and leveraging the strengths of your team to be able to get to that. So that, there's always this inner chaos that happens, but having a measured approach is always beneficial for me personally as well as for the team.
Yeah, I love everything you're talking about here, especially the trust aspect, because the people that you have around you are so critical to being successful. Yep. And even when things feel chaotic, you've got your folks that you can rely on and lean on and talk to. I think everybody here who's touched a construction project in the past knows the only certain thing in construction is there's always uncertainty. There's always going to be surprises, always going to be changed conditions. It might be terrible weather, it might not be, who knows? And you have to have all of these processes in place to make sure you can navigate those moments when surprises come. You know they're coming. So again, to Josh's point earlier, you're putting in the reps, you're doing all the work early. So when it happens, because it's going to happen, you're ready for it and it's okay. We might have already answered this a little bit in the course of the last couple of questions, but Josh, I'm curious, what do you think is one leadership lesson that applies equally to sports, construction, and global development?
I think it's a people game, right? Like, I think to be a great leader, one, you have to be a great teammate. You have to be a great coworker. And that's not just in the work that you do on a day-to-day basis. It's also in the intentionality that you take to learn the people around you that you're working together. Like, I know playing quarterback, like you're put on a pedestal sometimes, when you win, life is good, right? You get all the attention. When you lose, it's always your fault. But I think being able to remove yourself from your position of, for example, myself as a quarterback, but as a teammate of the Patriots, and take a chance to get to know my teammates, whether it's the guys I work with every single day, which are the other quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, or it's guys I don't work with every day, which is the entire defensive side of the ball, because we're competing against them every day. It's being able to take time to go out to dinner or hang out or have one interpersonal conversation on a day-to-day basis to get to learn my teammates outside of football, so that when you're in those moments, you know how to push them, you know what is motivating them to achieve a goal. And I think that's what it takes to be a great leader. Like, you have to be a great teammate first, and how you learn and get to know the people around you. And then after that, it's making sure that you're doing the work first, right? Like, I think a lot of leaders like to lead from the front and drag people behind, or they like to tell people what to do instead of leading by example and doing the work, putting in the time and effort that their other coworkers or teammates are doing. And so it's all about being consistent and being a great teammate. And I think if you do that, then when you're in your leadership role, you're able to pour into your teammates and also get the most out of them that you need to accomplish a goal.
Yeah, and I think you're really leading with empathy at this point, at every moment where you're understanding the people, what drives them, what they care about. And I think it adds a lot of humanity to the leaderships. And I think the folks that I've worked with and worked for who have really shown that they truly care about me as a person and the work that I do, and it's not just a box to check. I go above and beyond for those people because I know that they care and I feel good about the work that I'm doing. And I love that. But again, it always does keep coming back to the intentionality and the preparedness that you're putting behind every single day to show people that you're showing up, you're putting in the work, and you're doing it. I love it. Gerard, how about you? What's one lesson that, consistently through all these areas we're talking about today?
Empathy is really the word that comes to mind. A good leader leads by example, I believe. And how do you lead by example? The way to do that is to understand what the needs are of your teammates, your community, as well as the stakeholders that you're working for. So once you understand what their goals and their needs are, you make space for them to contribute. And I think that makes them feel like they have power. It gives them agency. So by leading by example and then leading with an empathetic thought, you're allowing others to flourish and they support you. So I think it's a symbiotic relationship, giving them that voice.
And I think that comes back to trust as well.
Yeah.
When I'm working with folks, whatever project we're working on, I make sure that I've got a great team around me who I trust that they're going to do the things that need to get done. And when I hand something off to somebody, I do my best to not think about it and worry about it unless they let me know they need help or something is amiss, because I trust that they're on track to do that. And I think if you're too in the weeds as well in those moments, that creates a lot of uncertainty where they don't think that you trust them because you're a little bit in the weeds, you're micromanaging and everything else. And so I think this pairing of empathy and very intentional leadership and trust all really come together to create a great environment for working, whether you're on the football field or you're building a hospital or any other type of project. I want to pivot to a couple of questions that give some advice for the students that are here joining us today. And so, Gerard, the first question I want to throw your way, what advice would you give to these students about finding and working with mentors effectively as they look to begin their own careers? I can remember when I was that age and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I wasn't sure how to talk to people to figure that out. So I'd love your thoughts there.
Well, first, I strongly urge every student to be curious. To think about if say you're designing a sneaker, look at the sneakers, look at multiple sneakers, understand how they're made, and then ask questions to people who make them. So really go out there and identify things that interest you. And then there's plenty of tools online, there's plenty of people you can connect with. Go out there and reach out, but be very clear in your communications. I think many times we just dive into something and we're not clear about what we want to get, but be very focused around certain aspects of what you're really curious about, and then learn that, move forward. That will allow other opportunities to happen and doors to open. So I think curiosity is one big thing that I would urge everyone to do. I think the second one would be communication, is really focus on what is important to you and what is important to the person you're speaking to. Everyone's time is valuable. So, if you've got 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 30 seconds to speak with someone, how do you focus your energy to make sure that what you want to be heard is heard? And then what do you get out of that? And then, as Josh mentioned, you've got to do the work. You've got to put in the time and really focus on what is your end goal, but realize that in the span of your life or your career, you can have multiple goals or multiple iterations. You can start off by being an aerospace engineer and then being a quarterback, or in my case, wishing I was a quarterback, but being an architect.
Me too.
You never know. We got a football. We can see.
So, no, I think curiosity and research and communications are three things. I mean, there's plenty I can advise, but those are the three primary.
I think that's a wonderful starting point. Josh, what's your thoughts here?
Yeah, just to add on to those three, that's a great starting point. I think once you do those three, it's then looking around in your environment and identifying someone that's maybe a little further along in their career and creating a relationship with them as a mentor, not someone that you're pestering or just looking to climb the ladder because of their help, but someone that you see kind of yourself in them. You see yourself going through that same path to get to where they are, and asking for advice, seeing ways that you can apply their journey, the things that they've learned that have made them successful into your journey so that you can achieve your goals. I think if you do the work and you communicate and you're curious, then people want to help you.
Yeah.
People want to, especially people that are ahead, they want to not give back, but they want to motivate, they want to mentor, they want to pour into the youth, into students. So as a student, I think it's a great opportunity to find a mentor to help you along your journey.
And it's so much fun to be able to share those things that you wish you had known when you were the person's age that you're speaking to. Like, I love, like, there's been so many aha moments in my career, whether they were shared to me by somebody else or it was just something I figured out over the course of a project. And to be able to help other people see those things has always been incredibly rewarding. And I think find those people who really do want to share and share those lessons. I'm incredibly privileged because we've done, I mean, at this point, probably close to 150 episodes of Digital Builder. And when you said you take those little nuggets from everybody that you meet, I've been doing that for 4.5 years now. And I've learned so much about the AEC industry as a whole. And so I think that's really wonderful advice for anybody if they have a chance to speak with a mentor just, once or twice, or if you get to meet and work with them on a regular basis.
As we were all younger, we all think we knew everything, right? And I remember at my coach in college, Coach Jones, he always say a line that I didn't really understand until being removed from college and the environment. Is like you enter a stage where you don't know what you don't know. You're just sitting there. But when you're in that stage, you think you know everything. Then you get to a stage where you know what you don't know. So you're learning, you're growing, you're trying to improve. You know some things, but you also know there's things out there that you don't know. And as you're in that grinding phase, you enter a phase where you don't know what you know. You know a lot, but you still don't know that you know a lot. But you're trying to learn, you're trying to grow. And then you hit the stage where you know what you know, and you become an expert. And I think as you're looking for people along your journey, right, like those are the 4 stages of true ownership in your craft. And it's looking for people that know what they know and that can pour into you and that can give you that knowledge that can help accelerate your journey, become an expert so you can achieve your goals and dreams in whatever field it is.
I love that point about you don't know what you don't know. And it sounds a little silly to say out loud, but I think also a part of growing in your career and as a person is becoming very comfortable admitting and saying, I don't know this, because that's okay. And I get asked questions all the time, and I've gotten very comfortable communicating to people in the moment. Okay, I got to get back to you because I need to figure that out, or I'm not the expert here, but this person is. They can help you, and I think that shows a lot of maturity for folks once they get to that point in your career. And it's easier, like you said, as a younger person. Sometimes you're like, well, I know everything about this. Like, I don't know so much, so much, and I am so comfortable with that because I have the pleasure of learning from all these different people to add to my toolkit, to add to these conversations. And it's just a really impactful mindset, even if it doesn't sound very complex at the onset. So I appreciate you getting there a little bit deeper.
One curious thing for me is the notion is don't be afraid to fail. We all have situations where we're not going to succeed the way we think we are. Not that I'm saying it's good to fail, but when those situations happen, learn from that or admit it and ask for help. How could I have done this better? Which advice would have you given me if we had done it this way or something like that? Then it becomes a learning opportunity. And the fact that you're able to recognize that the outcomes didn't end up the way you thought they would allows others to say, okay, well, let me show you how to do this, or let me give you some advice, and then you can learn from it. Not being afraid to fail or is an opportunity for growth.
I love that point so much. And I think on the other side of the coin, if you're in a leadership position, you have to establish for your team that it is okay to fail, obviously within some safe constraints, because the stakes are high in the construction industry, margins are narrow. But if you're not communicating that concept to your team, they might not know that you're comfortable helping them navigate uncertainty. And so there's a lot of importance that's placed on people in the positions to make sure their team knows what your expectations are. That comes back to what Josh was saying with communication. Yeah. Like, this is a multi-layered thing. And I think we could talk about all of this for another hour to keep going, but But I've got one more question for both of you. So this is a question I ask every guest, and I'm very excited to hear both of your answers. What is one tool that you use on every project, no matter what you're working on? And Josh, I'm going to throw this one to you first.
This may sound weird, but like applying confidence. Confidence in, I think it's like confidence in your own skills and abilities of guiding you to wherever you are. And the same confidence to know that whatever you don't know, you're willing and able to work to know and understand it. I learned it probably like the hardest way. When I was in Minnesota, I was traded like in the middle of the week, got there on a Wednesday, went through practice. I knew nothing. I didn't know the offense. I didn't even know a teammate's name by Sunday. Sunday came around and the guy who was supposed to be playing, he put a quarter, he went down, he got injured, he's out for the game, and you're kind of like thrust into action where you don't know the plays, you don't know your teammates' names, you barely know what city you're in, just a whirlwind of a time. But it's the confidence to go out there and know, well, I put in a lot of work up until this point. I'm confident in my skills and abilities, and I'm confident that whatever they throw at me, I'll figure it out on the fly. Throughout the game, right, like there's plays where I failed, right? I had bad plays and bad moments. But in the end, it's learning for those bad plays and moments, having good plays and moments, and when the good outweighs the bad per se, and by the end of the time, then you win the game, and now it's like, okay, I achieved the goal, and you're thrust into the hardest environment ever. And I think the reason for that is confidence. So I think like to anyone in any situation, whether you're going to a new school, starting a new project, working with a new team, working on a new relationship, it's going into those with confidence in yourself, your skills and abilities, and your willingness and work ethic to learn and grow from there.
Like I mentioned a moment ago, I've had over 150 guests on Digital Builder. I think that's the first time anybody's answered confidence, but I actually really like it because it's well-placed confidence. It's not overconfident or, like you're not creating an uncomfortable situation. But I can't think of any circumstance where you would need confidence any less than, being a quarterback and showing up with a team that you don't know yet and go, all right, I'm in the game and I'm going to figure it out. And all these 70,000 people are staring down at me, hoping I do a good job. Well, maybe a portion of them are hoping you don't do a good job, but
more than half.
Yeah.
Usually,
It makes for an interesting balance, but I love that answer.
Can I ask Josh a question?
Please.
How did you manage the academics of a rigorous program for science and technology with the athletics?
It was definitely a process. I think as I look back on it, I might have bit off more than I knew I was chewing at the time. But I think it came down to, it's going to sound so cliche and so boring and it'll sound like a broken record, but it just comes down to like your habits and your work ethic. And also like remembering why you start whatever path that you start. Like for me, I grew up playing sports. I loved football, baseball, and basketball. As I progressed, football became the one that I was the best at and loved the most. My parents didn't play sports, so they instilled in me early, like, hey, like you go to school, you study a major that you see yourself, a career in, something that you want to put time and energy into, and something you're passionate about. And so I loved aviation, I loved space. And so it's good at math and science. So aerospace engineering was the perfect major for me, but also like I love competition. I love competing, leading, playing quarterback. I love football. In school, like it was difficult, right? Like days were long. I don't know how long you're supposed to be up during the day, but 10 hours are spent toward school, 10 hours are spent toward football, and whatever the rest is are spent towards sleeping and getting ready for the next day. That was the process daily. When it got difficult or things got hard or I got kind of weary of why am I doing all of this? I kind of like remember like, okay, well, like you grew up, you loved aviation, you loved engineering, right? So like this is you, like this is what you want to be. And then if football weren't to work and to be here, blessed with a great career. And then also you love competing, you love football and the opportunities of football continue to grow and the opportunities I'm very thankful for. So really it was knowing what I was passionate about, knowing why I started the process, why I chose to study engineering and why I chose to play football as high as a level as I could make it to. It's realizing that as an early age, like looking back on my career and understanding those are my motivation and push points. And from there, when you're in the library at midnight, you got a 6:30 a.m. workout, like you're like, well, at least it's worth it, right? Like I know I'm exactly where I want to be.
Gerard, how about you? What's one tool you use on every project?
Organization skills. There's different ways people organize things. For me, it's in my head. Other people use Excel spreadsheets, they use different type of software, they use marker boards. But I think in life, there's going to be things that you have to do on a regular basis. And then there's things that come at you from nowhere. And then there's things that are long-term and short-term. So it's just trying to identify and organize all of that information. We get bombarded with data. And, using some of the Autodesk tools from our practice, that helps us stay organized. Using other software tools helps us stay organized. But having internal checklists to determine what are the things that are priorities that need to get done right away, what are the things I need to get help on, and then consider the time that's going to take for that other person. They may not be available right away. But all of those kind of factors have to be considered and to be organized in a way that helps you move through your career, move through your day, move through your tasks. And I think that's a really important skill to develop.
I'm glad you said in your head, because I say that a lot and people look at me crazy. They're like, you can't organize everything in your head. I'm like, no, that's my process. That's how it works. So I'm glad I'm not the only one.
People think I have like tons of stuff in my head all the time, but that's the best way for me to stay organized.
I like that.
I've said this on the show before, but I have ADHD. And so organizing everything in my head just doesn't work because I get caught in decision paralysis.
Yeah.
And so I have to document all of these things very intentionally. Otherwise, by the next day, it's like, well, that thought disappeared. And now I'm not sure where I need to start. But for me, too, that organization and that prioritization really helps me get going at the beginning of the day because I've created that blueprint for what I need to get done and what I need to get done within a reasonable day. Another byproduct of my ADHD was I would make a to-do list that had about 75 things on it. In reality, I could do about 9. Yeah. And I found myself in a position where by the time I got to number 9 and the day was done, I felt bad because I had 80 more things on the list that I didn't get done. And now I'm better at setting myself for success in that regards by creating that intentional, organized list. So both of your answers, I love them. I think they're first-time answers for both of you, which is wonderful. That doesn't happen every single time we do this. Thank you both so much for joining us today. Incredibly engaging and rewarding conversation, and I learned a lot. For everybody out there, of course, this is Autodesk Digital Builder Podcast. You can find us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. We are video first, which is why I'm surrounded by all of these cameras and microphones and all these other fun things. But until the next time, goodbye, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Eric.